So if everybody is surprised at the deafening silence, that's because we're just waiting for attendees to join in, and we will get started in another minute. Thank you. Okay, well, I think we're going to get started, and I'm sure more people will join us as we go along. Welcome, everyone, to the MBTA, the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority's public meeting on the Dorchester Ave Bridge Replacement Project. This is a virtual public meeting, and we're joined tonight by Carl Erickson, our project manager from Capra Delivery, and Chris Kretsch, who is also a project manager. I think Carl is a senior project manager now. Carl, I apologize for that. And Christopher Kress, project manager for MBTA Capital Delivery, who will take us through the presentation. Going to the next slide. Just want to remind everybody, as I said earlier, we're all very familiar with Zoom. We can't wait till we can get back into a public setting where we can have face-to-face dialogue. But for now, we're on a Zoom meeting. This meeting will be recorded, and the recording and the chat transcript are considered a public record. And the recording will be posted on the project website following conclusion of the meeting after it is made accessible for everyone. We'll have a question and answer period after the presentation, and I'll go through, most people are familiar with how to raise their hand, or you can type anytime during the presentations. You're welcome to type questions in the question and answer by clicking on the question and answer button below and typing questions during the presentation. We'll give an opportunity for elected officials to say a few words when we start the Q&A period at the beginning of it. And so with that, I will hand it over to Carl Erickson to begin the presentation. Carl? Carl, I think you may be muted.
Thanks, Joe. You'd think after a while. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming out to our, on behalf of the MBTA, I'd like to thank you all for coming to the public meeting. This is our first public meeting for the replacement of the Dorchester Avenue Bridge project. And I'll just highlight the agenda for tonight's meeting. We'll do a project overview. We'll talk about some of the existing conditions at the site. We'll talk a little bit about a separate repair effort that the MBTA is undertaking with the Von Hillen Street retaining wall repair. We'll get into the bridge replacement project scope and schedule. We'll talk about some construction staging operations and things that will impact public travel ways. We'll look at our anticipated construction schedule in more detail. We'll talk about next steps for the project. Joe will get back on and talk about public outreach, and then we'll have time for Q&A and or comments from the attending audience. So next slide. The Dorchester Avenue Bridge was originally built back in the 1920s. A portion of it was rehabilitated in the mid-70s. So it's reached the end of its useful and also design and service life. But it's also becoming more and more of a safety concern for the MBTA, and that's why we have proceeded with this project to look into, first we looked at rehabilitation and repair options and arrived at a decision to replace the bridge in its entirety. The steel bridge carries vehicles, pedestrians, and bicyclists over the Red Line, as well as the Old Colony commuter rail line that services the South Shore, and also a series of Cabot Yard maintenance tracks, which is also a big factor for the Red Line subway vehicles. The project scope includes full replacement of the bridge, and also a unique feature of this structure is that it also serves locally as a portion of the Red Line tunnel roof, which is directly below span 2 of this bridge. We also do some preservation work on the adjacent Von Hillern Street retaining wall that I mentioned earlier. We've got the one thing that we really wanted to highlight tonight is that during next summer, summer of 2022, and for stage 4 of the construction work, which is our demolition and installation of new structural members, the bridge is going to be closed for approximately 4 months. And we'll get into that more later, but that'll be for the roadway above. Project benefits will end up with a safer, more resilient, and reliable service of this bridge, as well as the red line tunnel that travels directly below. We'll have reduced future maintenance costs and service impact, both for the public way on the top surface of the street and also for our transit passengers below. Next slide. So the project location, we're situated right in the heart of Dorchester, immediately adjacent to the Southeast Expressway. The bridge is situated between Von Hillern and Kemp Street, right along Dorchester Ave. You can see in our yellow bubble, the aerial map. Our right photo is a close-up plan view of the structure, with our Dorchester Ave running north to south, or south to north up the screen. As I mentioned, the bridge travels across several different transit elements and commuter rail, but span A goes over the West Pocket track. Span B is directly over the Red Line tunnel. You can kind of see the entrance to the tunnel. So on the Red Line subway, we are situated between JFK and Andrew Square, and Andrew is our first underground station as the subway makes its way into Boston. And then span C at the top of the screen is looking at, travels over, situated over top of the 2 Cabot Yard lead tracks, as well as the Old Colony commuter rail line track at the very northern edge. Next slide. Here's some general photos of the bridge from the track level. The picture on the left is that span A, which is over the Cabot Yard lead tracks. And I want to point out that the Von Hillern Street retaining wall is the steel structure that's off to the left of the photo. And on the right side of that same photo, looking through the fence there, it's a little bit hard to see, but that's the entrance to the Red Line tunnel. So you can kind of see the proximity we are to things as far as the trains go. The center photo is the Old Colony line looking west or outbound from Boston. And the right photo is also the commuter rail line looking inbound or north towards Boston on the train direction. Next slide. I'm going to just touch a little bit on the retaining wall. Here it is at a little bit more full view, Von Hillern Street, and those cars that are parked along the curb over there through the fence. That is, and we're kind of looking down at the expressway traffic immediately adjacent to the site. But next slide, Kim. The Von Hillern Street retaining wall was built as part of the expressway project back in the 50s, and is also reached the end of its service life. We've had some deterioration, and we're going to address that and stabilize and provide for a long-term service life for that structure. But during construction, we're going to be impacting some issues up on the street, and we look to do this work ahead of the bridge work and kind of get it out of our way, and so that the bridge contract proper next year, this work is already done and the wall has been stabilized. So this will be a summer 2021 issue, but it's really going to be isolated, if you will, to the area immediately adjacent to the wall. The wall is about 300 and some odd feet long. It gets up to about 40 feet high at the high end, and it directly below Von Hillern Street. So when we are working, those spaces will be cordoned off with construction barrier, and also we'll have police details on site to manage local traffic flow through the zone. Next slide. What we'll be doing for this wall will be stabilizing it with a series of drilled steel rods that are going to be grouted into the soil below the street. We'll be doing this work from above. The photo on the left is the typical equipment that's for this kind of soil nail installation. This is not, that's not the Von Hillern Street wall, but just to kind of show the type of equipment we'll be using. The schematic on the right is more detailed for Von Hillen Street, and you can kind of see the big excavator and its footprint is just going to take away some of the traffic width of Von Hillen Street. So when they're working, as I mentioned earlier, we'll have traffic details on site. And when they're not working, we'll be able to open up the street a little bit and get it back to a dual lane street. Next slide. So now we'll get on to some aspects of the bridge replacement project to just get everybody's bearing straight. This is actually the Dorchester Avenue Bridge looking north into Dorchester. The tracks are below to your left and Boston is off to our left. So next slide. This is a depiction of the proposed bridge structure that's going to be built next summer. We're going to have steel plate girders, precast deck panels, cast in place closure walls, new sidewalks, barrier fencing. We're going to end up with a 40-foot roadway width, which I'd like to note that that matches the existing bridge width out to out. So we're not changing the footprint of the bridge, but we're going to reconfigure the lanes and some of the features on the bridge a little bit to provide for safer and more bicycle-friendly features. Namely, we'll have 6-foot bike lanes on both shoulders, but we'll also have a 3-foot buffer between the bike lane and the striped portion of the traffic travel way. So that's a new feature for the proposed bridge is the buffers for the bike lanes. Also like to note that we're going to have a vaulted sidewalks, and that's important because of all the utilities that are on this bridge. I'd also like to just point out this 20-inch gas main that is a prominent feature and also is driving some of the construction schedule. We're only allowed to shut that off with National Grid in the summer months when gas is on a low demand because of temperature concerns in the New England region. So that's a driver to our construction schedule, and it kind of forces us into a hard start and a hard stop in terms of the gas main outage. And it can't be supported temporarily while we demolish the existing bridge. So that's one of the unique features of the bridge, and we'll touch on that a little bit later as well. Next slide. Here's a plan view of our replaced bridge. And no, we're not going to paint the deck in all of these colors. It just wanted to kind of highlight the sidewalks and the bike lane, but also the buffers that are going to be provided for our bicyclists across the entire length of the new bridge. So just to kind of help them pop out on the graphics tonight. Next slide. I'm going to turn things over to Chris Kretsch. He's a partner at Capital Delivery and another project manager, but we're working together on this project. He's going to go through some of the construction staging and traffic concerns for the project. Chris?
Hi, thank you, Carl. Like Carl said, my name is Chris Kretsch. I want to thank all the attendees for attending tonight. I'm going to talk a little bit about the construction staging and how we're going to build the bridge and what those impacts are going to be for the traveling public. Stage 1 is the kickoff of the construction activities on the bridge. It's going to happen in spring of 2022. And the idea here is that we'll be taking the utilities that are located on the bridge, both within the sidewalk, underneath the bridge. As Carl showed in the cross section, there's quite a bit that we have to relocate. And we're going to put those out of the way to enable the bridge replacement, to enable the bridge to be demolished and then also the new bridge to be constructed. After stage 1, we'll move into pile installation. These are the foundations that support the bridge superstructure. The traffic impacts during this time will be a single one-way alternating traffic scheme with temporary signals on each end. This is anticipated to take place in late spring. And as you can see in the bottom figure of the diagram, we are building the piles in 2 halves. So we're starting with 1 half in this stage 2, and then in stage 3, we'll build the other half, which we'll see in a second. There are no impacts to the red line or commuter rail line during stage 1, 2, or 3. So pile 3 is just, not pile 3, stage 3 is just a mirror image of the pile installation that we're doing in stage 2. Same impacts. This will bring us into early summer 2022. Stage 4 is the bridge closure. And this is a very important stage for the construction of the bridge. This is where we're going to demolish the existing bridge and construct the new bridge, install the girders, install the deck. And to accomplish this work over the railroad and with the traveling public that uses the bridge, the easiest and quickest and way to do all this and minimize the impacts to all the stakeholders is a complete outage. So although it hurts when the bridge is out, to do this, we're using accelerated bridge construction techniques to keep it to a minimum. And this is going to take place in the summer of 2022. As Carl had mentioned, that the real driver behind that summer timeline is the National Grid 20-inch gas main that has to be taken completely out of service. So during this time, there'll be a lot of construction activity that we will utilize some weekend closures and busing diversions on the rail lines below. There will be detours for pedestrians and also for vehicular traffic and bicycle traffic as well. The detours we're envisioning for the project will reroute kind of 2 detour routes. We'll have a primary detour that will be primarily for the heavy vehicles that will take place utilizing the I-93 highway corridor between Columbia Junction and the Angel Square exits. You can see that detour outlined in blue on the graphic on the screen. An alternate detour will utilize local roads, Columbia Road to Boston Street. And from that point, you can access Angel Square. The pedestrian detour will utilize local roads around the bridge, diverting pedestrian and bike traffic to Boston Street. It'll utilize Howell Street, Boston Street, and then it can either use Songen Way, or if people are continuing on their way to Angel Square, they can just continue down Boston Street. And that is depicted in the kind of peach orange colored line on the figure on your screen. So after that work happens, we've demolished the bridge, we've installed the new girders, we've installed most of the concrete deck. We still have some more construction to do, and that's this stage 5. In stage 5, we'll have a good portion of the structure built. We will return traffic at a reduced level to the bridge, and also have bike traffic and pedestrian traffic on the bridge. What we're doing here is we still have to relocate the utilities that we remove from the bridge in stage 1 and put them back on the bridge. So during stage 5, we'll utilize a one-way alternating traffic scheme with temporary signals, and we'll utilize work zones on either sides to relocate the utilities and build the new sidewalks. This will take us into fall 2022. And again, this work is all done from the roadway deck, so no impact to the rail service below the bridge. Here's a Gantt chart just kind of showing an overall timeline of the things I just discussed, starting with the Von Hillen Street retaining wall repairs, the procurement phase of the bridge, and then stages 1 through 6 that we see going from spring 2022 to fall 2022, and again, the most critical time, that stage 4 bridge closure in the summer of 2022. The next steps is to advance the design to 75%, and then shortly after that, 100% design. We are proceeding on an accelerated design schedule. We're going to have another public meeting in the fall of 2021. And then prior to all the construction activities that I just talked about, we're going to make sure we touch base with the public again in early 2022. And through this time, we will have continued municipal and stakeholder engagement. So now I'm going to hand it back to Joe Nolan to discuss a little bit more about the public outreach.
Thank you, Chris and Carl, for that very informative presentation. And I'll remind everybody in attendance that if you or friends or constituents want to get more information on the project after this meeting is completed, you can go to mbta.com/.avbridge. And if you want to send us an email at any time, any question or comment, the project email is .avbridge@mbta.com. If you sign up, you can go to those locations. You can sign up to receive digital updates on as we go through the phases that were explained in the presentation, and upcoming virtual meetings will be made available to you, and you'll know about those, and you'll get all the construction advisories as things go along, as detours go in place, etc. So moving on to our next slide, I think we're at our question and answer period. I see that we had, so if you'd like to, I don't see any questions in the Q&A period, so people are probably anxious to get outside and enjoy the spring weather. I did notice that we had a couple representatives from elected officials. I know Pat Ford from Senator Collins' office and Tom Mannion from Rep. Beal's office are here. Would either of you like to have any comments or questions about the project? If you do, just click your raise hand function and we can open up your microphone. So Pat Ford has his I'm going to unmute him. Actually, we're all set. I think you're set to speak, Pat.
Good evening, everyone. So our office does not have any questions, but we thank you for the detailed presentation, and we will follow up with any questions that we hear from the constituents. Thank you and have a great evening.
Thank you, Patrick, and thank you to Senator Collins for being a partner on this project and helping us get the word out about it. There'll be a bigger push in the spring of next year when we come up in advance of the detail. Tom Mannion from Rep. Beal's office, you're open to speak.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for your attendance tonight, especially on this beautiful spring night. We also do not have any questions, but if you'd like to contact our office about anything that's presented tonight, our email is thomas.mannion, MANNION, @mahouse.gov. Thank you.
Sounds great. And we have some members of the general public here and some others. If anybody else would like to weigh in, I guess now is your opportunity. If you want to raise your hand and on the raise hand function, please feel free to do so. Don't be shy. We have a whole team of people here that can answer your questions. And if we can't answer them tonight, we'll certainly get back to you. I think people are a little bit shy tonight because I think a lot of people are out enjoying the beautiful weather. So I understand. We'll give it another few minutes, or a few seconds, I should say. Minutes would go real long. All right, well, I don't see any other raised hands, so I would just invite everybody who's attended tonight, and we appreciate that, to utilize the website, as we said, www.mbta.com/.avbridge. You can get information there, you can sign up for updates, and you can send us an email from that location. So thank you, everybody, for attending. And we look forward to talking to you again at our next public meeting in the fall, and then a following public meeting in advance of construction in the spring. Thank you so much for attending, and I think that will bring this meeting to a close.